Welcome back to Dolor Factor Live. As I said, think about some of the experiences that you may want to comment or share with us. Okay, we're going to be taking your calls after the next break. But what we thought we'd do is we have a couple of questions here already. One of them is quite interesting. Many of us act out things we have been taught without a proper understanding of the origin or meaning of what we are doing. Do you believe there is value in that? Would you want to start?
Well, you see, when your grandparents, because a lot of us literally grew up from our grandparents. Some of us grew up with our parents. And what their parents told them, they would think it's correct and, oh, that is genuine. And they would do it, for instance, not leaving your clothes outside at nights. I mean, that was instilled in you. Or don't go and bathe outside at a certain time. And if you live in the house, the first person to leave the house, wear shoes.
I've heard that one.
Yeah, you know, a lot of these beliefs, they tell you. And if you're the last person to come into the house at night, walking backwards. So these
people used to say that, and they meant it seriously.
They meant it seriously. These were things that were handed down from grandparent to parent to child. And your fear, because now people don't fear their parents like before, but your fear of your parent before, you would feel it's right, and we should follow that. It's what they teach us. So it was that kind of thing.
But why weren't there any questions asked? I mean, as a child, I suppose you just accept. But I remember trying to ask the questions. Why? Why do you ask me to do this? Why do you ask me to do that?
And you got discipline, eh?
I got I never did understand.
To say you get punished.
I never did understand, what the answer was, because to me it wasn't answered.
They would not answer.
I can see some value in what Mr. Lafos is saying, in the sense of your grandparents try to put these things into you. Some of it might be because it was expedient at the time to not explain the fine details of why they told you, if some of what he gave the example of. But I think eventually, at some point, it's useful to try to reason out why some of those things may have been told to you, so you understand why you should keep it or not keep it.
But how do we know that it was a myth and it wasn't our grandparents just trying to?
Yeah, well, what I'm saying, that's why you
give us the manners.
That's why you reason it out and try
respect.
to find out, does it make sense? Where did it come from, etc. So you decide if you want to carry it forward.
But you do that when you were older, as opposed to when you were younger, because you just accept.
For instance, you live underneath the roof, and you would be like, if I defy them, what would happen? You know, you think of the consequences. Before you think of your actions, you think of the consequences.
Yeah, that's another aspect too, that I think I often hear people talk about the good old days. And I don't in any way want to suggest that there's nothing good about the past. I think there are many things that we can learn. But we must also understand too that given that our society was structured under such an oppressive thing, even in parenting it was practiced too. And I don't think we should necessarily glorify the fact that people lived in fear of their parents and teachers and that sort of thing. You should have, there's a certain level of respect that maintains order, but the fact that people talk about how badly their parents beat them and stuff like that, I don't think we should necessarily unquestioningly just accept that was good parenting or that sort of thing.
It's not all parents used to beat, because some used to punish. And it was handed down from different, your upbringings. Like some would say, okay, Delia, they would let you get dressed and then punish you, take out the clothes and things. But I think the fear of that, that fear in us being like, wow, if I ask that question, what would they say?
Yeah,
you see?
I don't think that's healthy for children to live constantly in that kind of fear.
In that kind of fear. It takes out the aspect of growing up in you. So when you grow up now, you're like, what? That's why you have a lot of rebellious things happen and people wonder why.
Well, let me ask you something then. How do we explain then when certain things seem to be the truth? It sounds silly as a myth, but then someone will come to you and they say, I did it, or I saw it, I saw it with my own eyes.
Yeah.
And someone who you respect is telling you something that you ridiculed, is actually a fact.
I don't think everybody experiences the world in the same way. There are some people who perhaps did see those things. I'm not in a position to say. All right,
let me give you a personal example. I used to have people who listen to the show on RSL would have remembered this one. I used to have a little finger growing out of one of my fingers. I believe it was this one. And my grandmother, we lived in Dennery, and my grandmother said to me, what you have to do, you have to cut a lime in half, rub it on the little finger, and then go in the garden and throw it behind your back. Throw it as far as you can, but you must never see that lime again. All right? I didn't listen to her. But one day, the little finger got jammed somewhere. It was so painful. It hurt me so much. I thought, I'm really getting fed up with this because it used to do it sometimes. I thought, I'm just going to do it. And I did it. I did my little thing. I went in the garden.
And it stopped?
Let me tell you something. It went. I never went back in that garden again because when it went, I believed it. So because I didn't want it to come back in my head. I'm thinking I don't want it to come back. I never went back in that garden again. I don't think any of my family realized or remembered that I stopped going to the garden. But that is the reason why.
Yeah.
Now you tell me. Someone said that story to me. I go, no.
But
Wait a minute. Is that myth? Or was it just time for it to just go on its own?
But the human mind is something, Delia. The human mind, I was sick, I was at the hospital, and my sugar kept going up and going down. And I got up one morning and I told my mind to heal my body, and I believed it. I say, mind, heal body, can't go home. And I believe it. I believe in my mind, but it's true, your mind can heal your body. But these things, literally, if you tell your mind it's going to happen, it's going to happen. You'll tell your mind this, but a lot of these things are built, like for instance, they tell you, bathe with blue soap. And there's a friend of mine who had this rash coming out, and his grandmother told him to put hibiscus leaf in the bathtub, bathe with the blue soap, and throw the water and throw the soap. And he never got the rash. But so it's what they tell you. You tend to believe it sometimes.
All right, okay. Let's go to the nitty-gritty of things then. What about the kind of supernatural things that we hear about, like Jablesse and all that? Come on, where did that come from?
Okay, before I even go there, I mean, I tried to hint at it earlier, but I think if we're talking about myth, we cannot really exclude Christianity as part of it. In the same way that people see Jablesse, people have apparitions of Mary.
Yes.
So we don't really have a basis upon
well,
which.
like you say, the apparition of Mary, because we were talking the other day, and you said that. Continue through that thought of the apparition of Mary.
So I'm saying if somebody says they saw it, again, I've never seen either of the two. But there are ways in which people experience things through their mind, etc. It may be projected to them. I'm not going to say that either of them is false. But what I would argue about is that one would jump on the arrogant high horse and say that this one is legitimate, but this one is some superstition.
No, but we must
Why?
also.
I mean, I know you've explained
because you have the power to define, and in the minds of many people, if it is said from the Christian perspective, then this is legit. But
because the Virgin Mary is good.
This one does not have.
But you must remember that's good and evil.
Hold on. This one does not have a religion to back it. We don't know the religion this comes from. It doesn't have a religion to back it. So it is just some outlying superstition. But in substance, in both cases, you see a female, right? That in a spiritual entity. So both of them are essentially roughly the same thing. But the Christian side can say, oh, that one is evil.
So where does Jablesse come in terms of religion then?
But they tend
that doesn't come into it.
We would have to understand
it's good and evil.
We would have to understand the traditions that were not able to hold themselves together in this part of the world.
That's a culture as opposed to a religion.
No. I'm saying that the religious systems that were not able to hold themselves together. You may not have had all of the elaborate rituals anymore, the complete system, and therefore people may continue to experience certain aspects of it.
Do you believe in any of this? Do you believe in Jablesse?
Do I believe in Jablesse? I don't doubt that people can experience spiritual entities. I don't doubt that they can.
Really?
People can, because
some people may experience those things outside of themselves.
Yeah,
some may experience these things within themselves.
That's another thing. They say as a left-hander, you'll be able to see the Jablesse before you, the right-hander.
There are people who are blessed with the power of healing up to now. You get sick, your foot get twisted. There's a gentleman I know, my foot got twisted. I went to hospital, and after 3 rubbings, I couldn't walk. You see, it's your belief in good and evil. They will tell you, Jablesse is evil, and if you see it, run and do this and do that, and you would follow. But for instance, they will tell you, don't pass this place. But your mindset, you would know what to do.
I would like to ask you something though, Mr. Lafos. You spoke earlier of being a Catholic, etc.
A practicing Catholic.
As you speak of they, etc. What in terms of where you are coming from? You said there is good and evil. when you speak of the Jablesse and this sort of things, what is your position on where these things are concerned?
Well, I believe it exists.
Yes, I'm not talking about whether they exist, but in terms of, you spoke about, as I was speaking, you spoke about some being good and some being evil. When I spoke of Mary as opposed to the Jablesse in the Mamadlo, where do you come from where that is concerned? Is the Jablesse an evil entity to you?
Well, for me, I feel it's evil.
Okay.
I can tell you my teachings and things, I believe it's evil.
What does it do?
Because they say
what does it do to make it evil?
It takes people. They say it takes people.
The story is that a man would be attracted to this beautiful woman, female, and she would lead him astray, and he'd get lost or wherever. How some of the myths that it's associated with is of course teaching the idea that if you are going to be so drawn by this outward beauty, then you are likely to find yourself in this sort of situation.
Yes. I asked that question because I knew that was the answer. But why is it then, if it's going to draw the men, why is it that as a little girl, I was warned about Jablesse? And I think it was like I had to be home a certain time before it got dark, or Jablesse was going to take me.
I thought that was a disciplined part of it, you know.
Yeah, people may have taken those very same myths and then used them in that particular way.
Okay.
Because I, for instance, a lot of people, other religions, say Mary doesn't exist, but I know under God everything is possible. So I believe Mary is one of the gods. Right. I believe in that.
Thank you very much for that, Ricky. Well, it's going to be your time soon to share your experiences with us. When we come back after the break, we are going to open the phone lines so you can call us and tell us what's on your mind. Please don't send any more answers for the questions. We're going to close that now. So stay with us. We'll be right back.